26th century BC, 4 in the morning. A workers' barracks on the edge of the Giza plateau. 40 men in a single dormitory. Wake up. No one argues. No one asks for 5 more minutes. 3 months on the build instead of taxes. In return, food, shelter, medicine, and the belief that your labor will earn you a place in the afterlife, beside the pharaoh himself. Try offering that benefits package today. 146 meters. 6 million tons of stone. The tallest structure on Earth. And it will hold that title for another 3,800 years. The base is leveled to within 2 centimeters. All 4 sides face true north, with an error of 0.03 of a degree. And not a single blueprint. Not one that we have ever found. The ancient Greeks will later write that slaves built all of this. The world will believe it for 2,000 years. The Greeks were wrong. Not one of them has any idea that thousands of years from now, tourists will pay money just to look at what they are about to build. For them, it is just another morning, heading off to pay their taxes. In 1988, archaeologist Mark Lehner uncovered this settlement, a fully planned city for 20,000 people, with streets, barracks, bakeries, and breweries. Workers arrived in shifts, serve your 3 months, and go home. This went on for 23 years straight. Workers arrived in shifts, serve your 3 months, go home. Someone from the next village takes your place. And so it went, for 23 years straight. The bakeries run through the night, hundreds of loaves per hour, dozens of ovens, industrial scale, 4,500 years before industry. Bread here isn't just food. Bread is currency. Bread is your wage. 10 loaves a day. That is your rate. Money hasn't been invented yet. Coins won't exist for another 2,000 years. The scribes track every ration. Who received what, how much, when. All on papyrus. Onion, garlic, lentils, dried fish, and meat every day. More than the peasants back in their villages ever saw. Researcher Richard Redding will later calculate, from 175,000 bones pulled from this sand, that every day on site, livestock totaling more than 1,800 kilograms was slaughtered. 11 cattle, 37 sheep and goats. Every day. Not on holidays, not for the elite, for the workers. The pyramid builders ate meat more regularly than ordinary Egyptians back in their villages. The people the whole world called slaves were eating better than free peasants. And 5 liters of beer per person every day. This is not Heineken, not even close. They take yesterday's bread, break it into chunks, pour water over it, and leave it to ferment. A thick, warm, cloudy slurry with bits of grain, B vitamins, amino acids, calories. Closer to a protein shake than anything from a bar. You can't drink water from the Nile, but you can drink this. And you need to. Because this isn't a beverage, this is fuel. 4,000 calories a day per person, 20,000 people. Logistics that feed an entire city. No refrigeration, no trucks, no engines. Everything produced on site. Everything distributed by crew, by roster, by name. Bureaucracy that is 4,500 years old. Limestone quarried right here on the plateau, but the white casing stones shipped from Tura across the Nile. Granite beams for the burial chamber from Aswan, 800 kilometers to the south. Copper tools from Sinai. Timber from Lebanon. The whole country feeding a single point on the map. This isn't a construction site. This is a national project, the largest the world has ever seen. Thousands of people moving in one direction, in silence. No one talks. It is like a morning shift at a factory, except the factory hasn't been built yet, and won't be for another 4,000 years. But the pyramid? The pyramid is almost finished. Papyrus ropes, wooden sledges, and 20 men hauling 2.5 tons of stone. One of them steps forward with a jug and pours water onto the sand. Why? Wet sand cuts friction in half. The sledge glides instead of digging in. And this isn't our guess. They drew this technique on their own tomb walls. A man with a jug in front of a sledge. 4,500 years ago, they figured out a solution and left us the instructions. Injuries, every day. But there's a medical post, right on site. Archaeologists studied skeletons from the workers' cemetery, healed fractures set in splints, successful amputations. Trepanation of the skull, and the patients survived. Went back to work. Surgery 4,000 years before anesthesia. You can't get a doctor's appointment back home, but here they'll open your skull and put you back on your feet. Overseers here don't negotiate. The stick, that's the argument, the motivation, and the entire labor code in one object.
Iri! Iri!
Workers were divided into crews, 1,000 men each, split into teams of 40. Each team had an overseer. Each crew had a name, not a number, a name. Friends of Khufu, drunkards of Menkaure, the energetic ones. They chose them themselves and painted them on the stones in red ochre, like a signature. These marks were meant to stay hidden inside the pyramid forever. But as the casing stones crumbled over millennia, the signatures became visible. 4,500 years later, we know their names. Slaves don't name themselves. "20 men on a single rope, 2.5 tons of limestone on wooden sledges. Someone at the front calls the rhythm, and everyone pulls at once. The block shifts by centimeters. Papyrus rope cuts into your palms. And there are 2.5 million blocks. A new one set in place every 5 minutes. 23 years. No days off, no stopping. Noon. The shade of a canopy. I know how this pyramid ends. I know it will stand for 4,500 years. I know that centuries from now, people will argue about how they did it. Some will say aliens. Some will say slaves. Some will say lost technology. And the answer is sitting right next to me, eating a flatbread, drinking warm beer. And in 20 minutes, he'll go lay the next stone. This settlement, one day they'll call it Hayt el Ghurab. It has everything except the freedom to leave. Bakeries, breweries, fish salting workshops, copper foundries. Archaeologists will find ceramics from the Levant, textiles from Nubia, pottery from the Nile Delta, resources from across the known world flowing into a single point in the desert. Not a capital, not a palace, a construction site. No textbook, no film, no reconstruction will ever show you what I'm seeing right now. This was worth it. 12 hours on the stones. Your body doesn't ache anymore, it's past feeling. Your legs move on their own. I wouldn't wish this day on anyone I know. Evening. A campfire. A jug of beer. The same beer that tasted disgusting this morning now goes down like the best thing I've ever had. Amazing what 12 hours on the stones does to your standards. It stood when Rome was a village. Stood when Christ was born. Stood when Constantinople fell. It stands now. And I'm sitting here when it's not even finished yet. Everything we build is temporary. Homes, careers, relationships, cities. Everything has an expiration date. And these people, with no blueprints, no technology, nothing we consider essential, built the only thing on Earth that doesn't have one. And they did it with their hands, stone by stone, block by block, 23 years. And it will stand for 23,000 more. And no one will ever build anything like it again.